Hello, and welcome to Unpacking with Cargo Bay. On this episode of Airline Pilot Talk, we are going to discuss commuting. Yes, do you have to live in domicile just because your airline is based there? Do you have to live there? We're going to jump right into it. Now, commuting is something that is near and dear to my heart because I do it all the time. I'm based with my company, I'm based out of Louisville, Kentucky, but I live in Atlanta, Georgia. So my commute to work is an airplane ride. Now let's back up. A normal commute, like for the everyday person, they would wake up, they'd go to their car, they would drive to work, however long it takes, finish their shift, hop in their car, and drive back home. Now, the concept for a commuter like myself is kind of the same, except replace the car drive to work with an airplane ride. Now, Atlanta is 1 hour, actually a little bit less than an hour flight to Louisville, Kentucky, direct. So my commute is easy, and I say easy because there's like 4 different flights that I can catch that would get me to work on time. And especially when I fly on my own company's jet, I can book my jump seat up to 2 weeks in advance and no headaches, no nothing. It's as good as like buying a positive space ticket on your regular airline because it's guaranteed, no headache. I'm not going to get bumped, no seniority. No one senior to me is going to come and bump me off the flight. It's easy. Now, if I were to jump seat on, let's say, a Delta flight or a Southwest flight, and I say those because they both have nonstop flights from Louisville to, or from Atlanta to Louisville and back. Now, if I was to jump on them, it's purely space available. So basically, if there's no space available, they're just going to leave me at the gate and say, sorry, maybe next time. So my commute is relatively easy because, like I said, it's only a 1 hour flight and there's plenty of options. And also, by the way, one of the perks of being a pilot, I could fly on any airline for free. And they can also fly on my airline for free as well. But, I'm not paying to commute. I'm not paying to go to work. All right. So another thing to think about when you're a commuter is the amount of days that you're working, the amount of trips, if you will. Now, me personally, I do the international type of flying. And I like the longer block schedules. So I'll work the 7 days on, and then I'll be off for 7 days, so 7 on, 7 off. And so with that type of schedule, that allows me to have only 2 commutes to get to work, twice a month to get to work. So my flight takes off at 2 a.m. My trip starts at 2 a.m. I need to be at work by 1 a.m. so I could check in for the flight. Easy. I'll take my company jet. We have a 10 p.m. flight and 11 p.m. flight. Both of them will get me to work in time. I check in. I go fly my trip. I'm, flying around the world for 7 days. And then I come back to Louisville. Again, my company jet. I'll book, I'll get back, let's say in Louisville at like midnight. Well, great. There's a 2 a.m. flight and a 3 a.m. flight, my company jet getting me direct back to Atlanta. So as a commuter, for me, I don't have to, buy a hotel, in Louisville, or I don't have to do any of that. It's just very efficient. Now, if I was working the shorter type of schedules, working, 3 days on, 4 days off, 4 days on, 3 days off, like that type of working half the week, which most of the passenger airline pilots fly. Now that would be cumbersome as a commuter, because now instead of commuting twice a month like I would, if I flew that type of schedule, I would have to commute 8 times a month. You see, back and forth twice a week. So that will become cumbersome because on those types of trips, you really have no downtime because you're either coming or you're going. You're going to work. Let's say you have 3 days off, you're coming back, you miss your commute or whatever, you get back late in the day. So now that's already one of your off days, kind of wasted because you're commuting. And then you have, one purebred day off. And then that next day you're packing your bags because you're going right back to work again. So those types of commutes, that can become cumbersome and quite stressful as well, because it's now interfering with your personal life and your days off. So in those situations, I would highly recommend that you live in domicile, because catching multiple flights, a week just to get to work, and especially if you have a longer commute. Like, I've seen folks commute from coast to coast. When I first got hired, I commuted from coast to coast because, that was just what I got hired into. So in that situation, that scenario, you probably want to live in domicile, so then you could be like a normal person and just drive to work, finish your trip, and then drive home. All right. So that's all I have for this episode of Airline Pilot Talk. As always, if you have any questions, any specifics, go ahead, drop them down, and I'll be sure to try to answer your questions. All right. Thanks, y'all.